Welcome back to Inverted World. I am your host, Shane Cashman. I am broadcasting from inside a tornado. Right now, tornadoes are descending onto my town. Someone flipped the switch on the tornado machine, and now I got to deal with this. I tied everything down. I dropped the anchor, and we should be good. But at any moment, I might be swept away to Oz. So I will broadcast from Oz as soon as I connect to the Wi-Fi. How are you guys all doing? Thank you so much for being here. Hope you had a great and safe weekend. Donald Trump is a time traveler. It's been confirmed. But we knew this. I mean, we've been saying this for years. We've talked about the Barron Trump novels. We know about the connection between Tesla and John Trump, President Trump's uncle. But now just more evidence. People are starting to catch on. The things we say here on Inverted World, they become mainstream in about a year. It's just because we're reading. We're just reading the news. And they say it plain as day. I'm just checking to see how callers are looking. Hopefully we have some callers. You guys know I have the link on my socials to call in through Zoom if you want to talk about the Pokemon surveillance state that everyone was building over the last few years that maybe you didn't know about. If you want to talk about Antarctica, ghosts, aliens, extraterrestrial, whatever, demons, Donald Trump, the time traveler, you name it. Anyway, from the Daily Mail over the weekend, mysterious Trump airships appearing in 100-year-old sketchbooks sparks time traveler theories. And before we get into this article, I'm just going to see if the tornado has anything it wants to say. Okay, not yet. A wild theory claims President Donald Trump may be a time traveler, with clues scattered through art and literature for more than a century. Sketches of futuristic aircraft drawn by artist Charles Delschau, a Prussian immigrant who came to the U.S. in 1850 and died in 1923, mysteriously contain the word Trump and even featured the number 47. For those who don't know, that is the number of the presidents that the U.S. has had. And I believe it's in the Barron Trump novels that they consider the Trump character the last president. I might be confusing all of these artworks just from all the time travel I've been doing. Turns your brain to mush. Don't do it. This is your brain on time travel. Before his death, Delschau created depictions of fantastical flying machines that he called Aeros, that's A-E-R-O-S, which often resembled a mix of early airships, balloons, and primitive airplanes. However, conspiracy theorists have seized on the repeated appearance of Trump's name and the numbers associated with both of his terms in the White House as the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief. Conspiracy theorists, they keep turning out to be true, don't they? Keep turning out to be true. Just checking on the footage of the tornado outside, if it's knocking on my door just yet. Oh, but I do hear the heavy winds and the heavy rain beating down against the roof as we speak. Not sure if the mic is picking it up yet, but perhaps it will at some point. The extraordinary theory has also been connected to novels by Ingersoll Lockwood from the late 1800s, which featured a young character named Barron Trump, who embarked on incredible adventures with a wise mentor, Don. In Lockwood's books, Barron lives in a grand palace called Castle Trump. And is guided by Don, adding even more intrigue to the theory that America's first family was foretold decades before the president's birth. We've talked about similar things on this show before, also in regards to Epstein himself. I believe he was, I believe these elites, this ancient evil, that they kind of hijack the idea of destiny and they pre-plan all this stuff. Like when you look into Epstein's past, it's just all of it is, you guys know, but it's so shady, so contrived. It's like they just looked at other books and were like, we'll take from that book, and we'll put together this whole freak show for America and the world. But even like down to the book that was what was his name? The Attorney General's father. See, I got tornado brain right now. Was it Bill Barr? Yeah, and his father. I want to say Donald Barr. Is that another Donald? I could just be making that up. But anyway, Bill Barr's father, who gave Epstein his first job at the school, a year before he hired Epstein to work. There's Lightning. Barr wrote a novel about aliens that sexually enslave people. And he is doing, and the protagonist, I believe is the protagonist, is doing a lot of this evil stuff with this sadist co-conspirator woman. I don't know if you guys can hear that wind, but it is howling outside. They turned on the earthquake and tornado machines because we just don't stop talking about the Epstein files or criticizing the war. This is what happens. 1 in 3 people, remember, believe it's the end of the world. But also, I wonder how many people believe that it's the end of the world because we have psychopathic politicians trying to manufacture the end times based on twisted theology. Back to the article. While some have claimed, but anyway, with the Epstein thing really quick, they hijacked destiny, so it seems like this is all organic things. It was this, I think the end of the first week of the Epstein files coming out, I forget what number episode it was, I walked through my whole theory on Epstein being created like pre-birth by the ancient families who passed down this knowledge and wealth, and that they created this kind of, I don't call him a patsy, but he's a stand-in, that does a lot of their evil bidding, laundering, blackmailing, all that good stuff. It just go through that and see the history that I kind of walk everyone through, from the birth in Coney Island to the, some people be like, it's just coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. Okay. I think a lot of that stuff is super weird. Like I just explained to you the Barr novel, and then that guy ended up hiring Epstein. And then, what are the odds that his son would be the AG while Epstein's in jail in New York where he didn't die? Come on, give me a break. That's just like 2 examples of many examples of how the whole thing just seems like a preposterous narrative that's been cooked up in some think tank by a bunch of crazy reptile people. While some have claimed the artist and author had some mysterious method of knowing the future, others have claimed without evidence that the similarities prove the Trump family has time travel technology and used it to influence world events. I think Baron Trump is also extremely tall because that's a symptom of time travel, and maybe also from being Nephilim. Sorry, Baron. One person on social media claimed either Trump is a time traveler or someone put in 200 years of work to make a guy who wasn't even born yet look like he is one. I think something's definitely up. I don't know. So I'm trying to see if there's anything else here. According to the American Visionary Art Museum in Maryland, Del Shaw's fictitious arrows were powered by an anti-gravity substance he envisioned called NB gas, or SUPE, S-U-P-E, that enabled them to fly without normal fuels. These are things we're kind of talking about now, too. You're following stuff that came out of the Epstein files, or conversations with UFO disclosure, anti-gravity technology. How are they flying like this? This is conversations we're having now. But I will say, to ground this in history that we think we know, because I don't think we know really anything. We know some things, but so much, we just don't know. Look, that's just human nature. But it's cyclical. These are the same conversations we're having all the time. Egypt was having stuff like this. We found carvings of ancient, what appear to be airships, and carvings all around through the ancient world, or paintings like we've discussed. The paintings like the firefight over Nuremberg, the village, the old painting that looks like maybe there's UFOs in the painting. Again, it could just be shapes, but something. History is fickle. We know that we don't know everything, and it's okay to question anything. I've been going down a deep dive on the Punic Wars, and so far as I can tell, I got to have Jeremy Ryan Slate back on this show so we can get into some Roman history. But so far as I can tell, the only recorded evidence, I guess, well, it's not evidence, the only records we have of Hannibal crossing the Alps with elephants to fight the Romans is from Roman history. And that's the case with a lot of the things, places that they conquered when they went to Britain, Britannia, whatever they called it, Briton, at the end of the Iron Age, before it was conquered by the Romans. They had no written history. So we're seeing characters emerge from the wilderness of ancient, the late Iron Age Britain, where it's all muddy and gross in those cities. I mean, allegedly gross, But a lot of those characters that emerge from Britain, we only know about through Roman history. And then you got to think about who's writing that history. Okay, so one of the main historians from Rome would be Tacitus. Tacitus hated, so far as I can tell, a lot of these emperors. So why are we to believe him? It's like looking at a lot of the people who got Pentagon press passes this past year, and a lot of them, not all, but most, are very much pro MAGA, no matter what, diehard loyalists. Why are we going to believe them in the future? Why would anyone believe them in the future? But that's what survives. That's what the only thing you have. That's what you have to go off of. So it's just so interesting to think about all this stuff. But to tie it back into this idea of like anti-gravity, futuristic airships, cyclical. Human nature is cyclical. And it's always about the progress, whether you think that's a good word or a bad word. And I think it depends on the context in which we use it. But it tends to be a bad word. A lot of this progress leads to things that divorce humanity from God and makes people think they can actually be God. And that's all. I mean, we're talking about emperors. They thought they were given the divine right to rule. It's always about that. That is the human nature. Outside of like the sin of it all and the inside of this fallen world, so much of this is about how can people play God. We are having those conversations today. People have always had those conversations. That is just part of the deal. Is Trump a time traveler? I don't know. Barron, perhaps. That's why he got stretched out. It's just the portals really stretch you out. The technology is eerily similar to descriptions of UFOs, which the government calls unidentified anomalous phenomena, which I think is stupid. UFO, that's what it is. I'm happy that the Daily Mail is still using UFO every now and then. UAP, don't like the branding. Again, in terms of human nature and how cyclical it is, rebranding is all everyone does. Just like the Romans rebranded the Greek gods. Everything is constantly trying to rebrand and turn something into something new so it fits with modern sensibilities, so that the people of the modern times will accept it better. So by the rebranding the UFO to UAP, I believe is to strip it of its taboo and make it sound more modern, more sterile, something more acceptable, as we speed towards what I think is some sort of fake disclosure and another way of removing God from society. But this time they might even try to include it in God, with God, in terms of their story that they try to sell us. It's very, very possible. I'm just checking to make sure I'm not missing out on anybody. Delshau's sketches also included one showing a golden-haired figure steering a machine labeled with the number 45. Another link to Trump serving as the 45th president. The mystery surrounding the Delshau sketches has sent conspiracy theorists searching for every possible clue that Trump and his youngest son, Barron, could have traveled through time. One quote that has gained attention is Trump saying, "I know things that other people don't know." I mean, that's just a classic Trumpism. He said that both during his 2016 presidential campaign and after he won the White House. Trump's past comments on nuclear power have also raised eyebrows. The president has claimed that his uncle, Dr. John Trump, would explain the power of what's going to happen, and he was right. Celebrity and podcast host Logan Paul has even asked Trump's granddaughter Kai about the Lockwood book and whether it was proof that the human race was living in a virtual simulation. I disagree. The teen said that she was certain that Barron was not a time traveler, adding, "I don't go down those rabbit holes. I don't want to go down those rabbit holes." What are you, Alice? Reluctant Alice in Wonderland here? Just making it even worse here? The mystery grows even stranger when conspiracy fans begin to examine Lockwood's connection to the time travel theory. Hewas, that's Hewas, an American political writer and novelist who wrote 2 children's books titled Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey and Little Baron Trump and His Wonderful Dog, Bulger. However, Lockwood also created the ominous political tome, The Last President, a story which opens in New York City right after the election of an enormously unpopular candidate. The 19th century the 19th century author wrote that police officers shouted through the streets as mobs of vast size are organizing under the lead of anarchists and socialists and threaten to plunder and despoil the houses of the rich who have wronged the oppressed and oppressed them for so many years. I just want to look back. So that's late 1800s, and we have, 1900 or 1901, when an anarchist assassinated McKinley. And I believe, was Tesla born in 1901? Let's look. Just trying to gauge my time here. No. 1856. I forget what the Tesla 1901 connection was. There is a Tesla 1901 connection. Maybe that was with Morgan, JP Morgan. Yeah, March 1st, 1901, Tesla signs over 51% of interest in his patents and inventions, including future ones. And it was the beginning of the Wardenclyffe Tower. Okay, I knew there was a 1901 connected with Tesla. All right, let's get back to this. By the way, the book Barron's Adventures is Baron, and Barron today is Barron. People like to point that out as if that helps dispel any rumors. Like, okay, he just added an R. Okay, that's what you do when you're time traveling. It's an easy cover. In the books featuring Baron Trump, the boy visits Russia on an extraordinary adventure. Baron is guided through his adventure by Don, who is described as the master of all masters. The Trump family motto in the book is, "The pathway to glory is strewn with pitfalls and dangers." In the storybook's illustrations of Baron Trump, he is lavishly dressed and decked in jewels as he leaves Castle Trump and begins his journey to Russia to find an entrance to alternate dimensions. Alternate dimensions are also in the news. I saw someone sitting down with Avi Loeb recently. I think it was one of the guys from Epic Times. Sometimes I say Epoch, sometimes I say Epic, EPOCH. They'll tell you it could be either or. I've asked, but I think it was with Jan, Jan, who's one of their guys there. Sat down with friend of the show, Avi Loeb, to talk about, I'm hitting things, portals and extra dimensions, alternate dimensions, and what he believes people mean when they say interdimensional beings. Like when Anna Paulina Luna says that she thinks aliens are interdimensional beings. I think Avi is actually, a very interesting guy. I know I rag on him for 3i Atlas, but he's very interesting. He poses very interesting thought experiments, which is great. But this is, again, that's in the news now. A week or two ago, Ross Coulthart from News Nation he's with was talking about finding a portal. Now everyone's trying to find the portal. He's telling people, don't find the portal. If you find the portal, you're going to die. That's what he said. And, Avi Loeb talking about how he believes humans, again, this is all his theory, that he believes humans are interdimensional, that we do have access to other realms. And here we are talking about late 1800s novels that contain Trump, a Baron Trump, looking for alternate dimensions, looking for an entrance to alternate dimensions. As for whether time travel is actually possible or just a work of science fiction, no major scientific institutions such as NASA, which we all take so seriously, has ever dismissed the theory as impossible. Okay. In fact, many prominent scientists have claimed that time travel is possible to some degree, including a 2020 study in the journal Classical and Quantum Gravity that mathematically showed backward time travel could happen without creating confusing paradoxes or breaking the rules of cause and effect. However, famed physicist and person who liked to visit Little St. James with Jeffrey Epstein, Stephen Hawking, argued in his 1994 book that the best evidence we have of time travel is not possible and never will be, and is that we have not been invaded by hordes of tourists from the future, as far as we know. As far as we know. But I think Stephen Hawking is fake, too. Oh, goodness. Let's see what else we got here. Tornado seems to be lightening up, but I might as well, say a little prayer and hope that's true. It's supposed to be an all-day thing. I got this machine over here. I'm going to turn that off, too, just in case it's picking up. So we know about the Barron Trump novels. I figured since that article, surprisingly enough, did not bring up the Tesla angle and didn't talk about John Trump, Dr. John Trump, who Trump has talked about in the past. Let me see if I can pull that really quick while I do this. His uncle, MIT professor, was put in charge of procuring, studying. Wow, look at that. I moved it. Kids made this. I didn't even realize I knocked it away. Kids made that chain. Anyway, no, I totally lost my thought. John G. Trump, MIT professor. Trump has talked about him. I think he said that once that his uncle was the teacher of the Unabomber, which I can't find a connection of. But the Unabomber, as we know, was a victim of MK Ultra. And I don't see, unless John G. Trump told Donald Trump that he went and worked at some other place outside of those colleges, which is very possible. Look at what he was tasked to do with Tesla stuff after Tesla died. The government was afraid that Nikola was building a death ray or some kind of machine that might be able to hurt people. And they're like, we got to send in one of our best and brightest. We'll send in John Trump to study everything, see if he was building a secret weapon, or if he's got plans for a death ray machine. I don't know. I'm trying to see if I have the actual video of Trump talking about John Trump before I play this interview with John Trump, which is really, really interesting. Let's see what I got here. Hopefully this just pulls right up when I search time travel. Sure enough. Here we go. All right, so this is from, I think this is January 20th, 2024. This is when I retweeted this and said Donald Trump confirms he's a time traveler. This is from him speaking in New Hampshire.
People with diplomas, people without diplomas, people that went to MIT, like my uncle who was there for 40 years as a professor, the longest serving professor. Rudy, did you know that my uncle was at MIT, Dr. John Trump, for 40 years? He's the longest serving professor in the history of him. He had 3 degrees. One wasn't good enough for him, but he was great. He was great. Old people with...
He was great. It's so good. All right, so let's listen to this. This is Dr. John Trump himself being interviewed. This doesn't have a date on it, does it? I was hoping to give you guys a date, but it does not have when this was shared. But this is taken from the Eye of the Storm documentary. It's a great name for me to be listening to, or for me to be mentioning on this very day where I am defending myself against tornadoes. Now, they're going to ask him about being placed in the role of reviewing Nikola Tesla's paperwork, everything he left behind after his death.
Had accumulated
But I was particularly looking for something which would just be evidence of a secret weapon, which I was reminded by the two agents who were present during the entire time, was a matter of concern to the United States. In the course of this, I did come across a number of letters directed at the upper echelon of the British Empire, that is, I think, to the King and Queen, or perhaps just to the King of England, and also to the Tsar of Russia, explaining that he was the inventor of a secret weapon which had rather remarkable properties, and that he would be interested in entering into a negotiation which would lead to a disclosure of what they were. Of course, I spent a good deal of time looking through these papers, trying to find out what the nature of this secret weapon was. I think I had, although I don't remember it so very accurately, an idea of what its properties were. It had the capability of acting at a great distance, of being destructive to flying objects and things of that kind at a place which was remote from the source. But nowhere in his technical papers did I find anything which revealed an explanation of just...
Do you believe that? Do you think the guy who was sent in there by the government would be honest about what he found? And maybe he's like, they're like, you can say like 10%, you know, but you can't say this, and that, and the other 90%. As I listen to that interview, as I listen to that portion of the interview, I think of two things. I don't think he's being very forthcoming. He probably wasn't able to. He probably signed some crazy NDA. Or maybe he stole it himself and didn't tell the government. You know, I'm always curious. It's one of those things I'd like to go back in time. If I could time travel, I got to ask Barron about that. If I go and like observe him observing Tesla's stuff, how tight was security? How were they over his shoulder the whole time? Did he take stuff? Did they take stuff from him? Did he understand it? The other thing, though, that he's talking about there with the secret weapon that could work remotely, what does that remind you of? Something else that we've been talking about the past few weeks. The discombobulator. I mean, that is a form of discombobulation. And it is fascinating that they're talking about something that he was looking at. I believe this is 1943. Okay, this is World War II is happening. And we have Dr. John Trump reviewing, allegedly, these secret machines. I mean, he's talking about it. So we want to think it's true. Hard to know, but he's saying he found some sort of design for a secret machine. Other people call it a death ray machine, but that it could work remotely and actually attack aircrafts. They for sure, if this is true, I mean, it is so conceivable to me that they used it, turned it into something else completely over time. What it reminds me of is trying to like stop myself from thinking too fast here, because my mouth doesn't work that well when it's not connected to my brain, obviously. But what that reminds me of with Tesla and them getting a hold of this alleged technology, and who knows what the government's been doing with it over all these years, and all the different patents that might have come out of it. It's like another form of the Henrietta Lacks story. So for those who don't know who that is, that's the lady. She was a black lady who had this weird, I think it was cervical cancer, and the doctors took a sample of her DNA. They call it the immortal DNA of Henrietta Lacks. They just keep it just keeps reproducing. It's still around, and I think there's somewhere upwards of like there's tens of thousands of patents based on her DNA, and her family had no idea about that for a long time. Then there was lawsuits and all that stuff. But in that vein, it is very much like what's going on with Tesla. What I believe went on with Tesla when the government procured all his stuff, when Dr. John Trump went in and took a look at it all, I'm sure they took it and were like, well, we got to use all this, and how can we turn this in? And then farming it out to all of their greatest thinkers, all their scientists. Like, imagine the conversations that were for sure happening behind the scenes as the war was now winding down, and the Operation Paperclip was being considered. And they're like, okay, we got to hire some of their best scientists, these Nazi scientists, so we can give them some of this Tesla technology and figure this out. And then imagine what they built. So, we've talked a lot about a lot of the biowarfare experiments that they were doing on humans, especially post World War II and up to today. But then about what other machines, like last week we were talking about the return of the discombobulator, allegedly, using that in Iran. And thank you for the comments. I believe it was someone from the military, and they're telling me in the comments, I think it was 20 years ago, that they were hearing about this soft kill device. So it's another one of these examples of, we only hear about it now. They've had it for years, like AI. They've had AI for a long time. We're just now starting to see it for the very first time, and in the way that they want us to see it. We're not seeing it whatever they have, for sure. I want to see if I can pull up that comment really quick. So remember it being interesting. Bear with me. I see a lot of you talking about Bigfoot. Oh, and thank you to Tober Morley. As an avowed Mothman fan, he is now also demanding Mothman disclosure. You'll remember, we are calling for Mothman disclosure. I think this is how it works. We just ask for some new disclosure, and they're like, well, if that's going to keep him distracted from the Epstein files, just give him Mothman. This comment just seems to have disappeared. That is so weird. Oh, here we go. From Luke, Uncharted. Thank you for this. Soft kill tech has been around for a while. We used microwave weapons on the Russian embassy in New York in the 70s and 80s, well documented. They are doing the same thing to us that we did to them. But actually, that's true. But, it was a few weeks ago, we read the documents from the 50s and 60s about us asking the Russians to stop blasting our embassy over there in Russia with the microwave weapon. So this has been going on for even longer than that. And then Buster Balzac, Balzac, okay, he replied to that comment from Luke saying, I retired in 1987, and I do recall rumors of that technology in the 1970s and 80s, just like stealth technology. When they unveiled the F-117, nobody was surprised. Soft disclosure, they pretend to show you things, but it's never really, it's news to us, but they've been designing it behind closed doors for decades, and they're just now ready to reveal it as a form of propaganda to their enemies to keep us somewhat satisfied by throwing us scraps, but also, I think there's a few parts of it, just to gauge the response, see what happens with that. What do people do with it? Are they trying to make their own? We see 3D printed rockets now being made that can self-guided rockets being 3D printed. I want one. I'm going to get a few, but that's the thing now. So there's all these different facets to why they wait and why they eventually reveal it. And it's also because they've moved so far beyond that technology that they don't care anymore. Let them have it, because we've got Jewish space lasers. So I just want to hear a little bit more from Dr. John Trump.
Device could operate.
I believe that you also opened another box, supposedly a secret weapon that he left at another hotel. Can you relate that story, please?
Yes, when I had substantially concluded my study on the following day, I think that was a Saturday morning, I was reminded by one of the two agents that there was a box being held as a security for an unpaid obligation, and that this box was an item of considerable value and may indeed itself be the secret weapon, that it was armed and therefore it probably was not touched.
Were you nervous doing this?
I found it a matter of a bit of concern. However, I realized that this had to be done, and so we taxied down to this hotel. The agents identified themselves and their credentials to the assistant manager of the hotel, who led us to a room. This room was essentially empty except for a table and a steel cabinet against the wall.
I'm not sure why the music is happening on this documentary at this point. They're probably building up to some transition, but I want to hear just a little bit more.
Which was opened. I think perhaps he opened it with a key. The cabinet itself was empty, except on one of the lower shelves was a package, a box, a rectangular box of ordinary size, which was wrapped in brown wrapping paper. It turned out to be a highly polished box with brass clasps, and it looked more like an instrument case. And after waiting a while and listening a while and remembering that it had been there for quite a few years, I think it had actually been there for about 5 years as a security, I opened it. It turned out to be a decade resistance box, manufactured by, I suspect, an American manufacturer, and something of value, but not great value, and certainly nothing ominous at all in its nature.
So after Dr. Tesla had let the world...
A decade box, by the way, is a piece of test equipment that can be used during prototyping of electronic circuits to substitute the interchanging of different values of certain passive components with a single variable output. Decade boxes are made for resistance and inductance, and the values of which can be adjusted incrementally by turning of a knob or switch. Fascinating. I want to watch that whole documentary. All right, where do we go next? There's just so, we are being inundated with stories that are insane. It's I don't even know. Let's stick with Trump. So I can then get to this John Lennon audio that you may or may not have heard before. But of course, I have to just keep killing ads so I can read a thing. But we're going to get into Trump UFO lore. By the way, hello, everybody. Happy Monday. The link to call in is typically going to be in the description of this video. So look below. We be pre-recording on Monday through Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Might not always get phone calls, as I know it's a weird hour and we're still all adjusting to the new schedule here. So happy last week we got a handful of callers, and it was so awesome hearing from everybody. Thank you again for that. And hopefully we got some today. If not, we'll do it again tomorrow. And the link is also being posted on my social media accounts at Shane Cashman on Twitter and on, what is the other place? Instagram. Anyway, this is from the 14th. Trump's UFO release would include videos, photos, of non-human craft proving we aren't alone. That's according to a source. Isn't it just hilarious? Is it just me, or is it not just hilarious that AI has finally gotten so good that it's almost indistinguishable from reality for some people? Right before Trump releases all of this alleged evidence of aliens. I need a sip of my coffee real quick. The federal government, everyone's best friend, holds shocking evidence of UFOs which proves we are not alone, including satellite imagery of out-of-this-world craft that looked like nothing we have built. An expert with knowledge of the documents told the Post. You know my take on anonymous sources. I understand there's a nuance there. Sometimes you got to protect them. They can make the argument with this, especially after... what was it this weekend? David Grush saying that a bunch of his fellow whistleblowers have had their lives threatened. I have my theories on Grush. You know how I feel about the whole whistleblower community that came out of the government. I just personally don't trust them. I'm sorry. I know some people love them. To me, there's just something a little off with them, and you wonder if it's just if they've been put out there to help form this narrative, and giving them some credibility by making it look like the government's mad at them. So they turn them into victims, but it's all fake. It's all theater to get us all on board with being like, well, it must be real. Like, wow, they deleted all those FOIA requests from the Black Vault website that's been FOIA requesting the Pentagon for UFO stuff for all these years. Must be something big there. I think this is all theater. I think stuff's going on 100% in terms of demons and these visitations or military abductions. Certainly people are seeing things. Certainly stuff is weird. As I said that, my screen just went red. My computer is it's just a milk carton. I'm actually not staring at a screen. I just have a milk carton that I paint onto. And so when I say it's broken, what I really mean is that it's just soggy from the tornado and rain, and it's falling apart, and I can no longer read the hieroglyphs that I painted onto it. Back to my milk carton. The government's trove of UFO docs is massive and includes stunning photos and videos, according to Christopher Mellon, the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense Intelligence during the Clinton and Bush administrations. Publicly, also, I'm not a big Mellon fan. Publicly disclosing this information would take UFO discourse to another level, he added. Under President Trump's order 2 weeks ago, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth will direct the release of files related to aliens, UFOs, and all other information connected to the highly complex subject matter, the president wrote on Truth Social. While the announcement spurred federal agencies, including the White House and the Pentagon, to scramble, there has been no official word on what will be released and when. There's also been a lot of people saying that the guy who started the rumor about Trump's supposed disclosure speech about aliens is also fake, and that he started it and people didn't know what he was talking about. But then that might be fake. We're in fog of war on every possible front of every war that's happening right now. That is the physical wars, whether it's Ukraine, Iran, Gaza, fog of war, or it's the perception war, the reality war. Who knows what we're seeing that's even real? I mean, I think we know a fragment of what's going on in Iran. I don't think we know all of our casualties. I think they're keeping that from us. I don't think we understand what's going on over there at all. I think it's impossible to find out true information. Like, look at the example of the school that was bombed and how that's been back and forth. I think we know, but we only think. There's really no confirming anything because everything's AI. Like me. I'm AI. Okay? That's what you guys want to hear. All right? Disclosure time. I'm AI this whole time. That's why I don't go out. I can only exist inside of this little box. So I don't have a computer in front of me. It's not even a carton of eggs. It's just nothing because I'm AI. I've been created in a lab. All right. This is fake. This Band-Aid is just there to make you think that I actually bleed. While the announcement spurred federal agencies, including the White House and the Pentagon, to scramble, okay, I read that. The most compelling piece of data, Mellon claimed, are clear satellite photos of craft in space above the Earth that are obviously not man-made. I just don't buy it. We have satellite imagery of craft that sure don't look like anything that we have built or constructed, Mellon said. Those same convincing images of craft engaging in actions that are difficult to explain were referenced by ex-Director of National Intelligence and current CIA Director John Ratcliffe in a 2021 Fox News interview. In 2017, Mellon played a key role in the release of three now famous U.S. military radar images of unidentified aerial phenomena, referred to as the Tic Tac. Some people call it the Go Fast or the Gimbal. And he said there are more just like those on government hard drives. The government now prefers the term UAP. We know. There's a significant number of videos from the same sources that were judged unclassified in 2018, like from gun cameras on F-18s, which are videos allegedly that they have, and they have been withheld from the public, he said. I know there are because I've seen some of them, said Mellon, adding, and there's no rational reason that I can think of why those videos are being withheld. unless they were built by the places that we use our taxpayer dollars to send to, like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, and the government's not ready to show more people that. They're probably ready to, like I said last week, do these joy rides over places and see if people see them, and then judge, study rather what these people are making out in the sky. What is that? Do they think it's aliens? How fast did it move? Can you describe what you saw with their colors? Was it light? Did it sound like anything? That's just my take. But it could be just reverse engineered demon technology as well. Doesn't mean it's not. Though some provocative images should be included in the release, Mellon said he has no expectation for files that confirm the existence of or contact with alien civilizations. The Department of War, I think it's going to be a whole bunch of nothing. Honestly. So much of this most transparent administration has been a lot of nothing. We're going to give you all the JFK files. It wasn't much. I mean, it was actually a lot of files with a lot of nothing. It was stuff that they'd already released, or it was stuff that was just like adding to things we already knew about. So the Department of War and the Department of National Intelligence and the National Security Agency, all of my favorite places. Oh my goodness. My carton of eggs just keeps melting in front of me. My goodness. Look at this. I don't know what I did to upset this carton of eggs today. But it's not happy with me. The Department of Energy and the National Nuclear Security Administration all have UFO files that would be relevant to the Trump-ordered release, Mellon said. That's a lot of places. Releasing classified and sensitive materials is an unnatural act for intelligence agencies, he said. That's a funny way of putting it. I have a feeling bureaucracy is going to react slowly, and I don't think they're going to put the best stuff out quickly if they do at all, he said. Congressional vigilance is needed to ensure a thorough and effective process. Senator Mike Rounds is a Republican from South Dakota, a senior member of the Senate Armed Service Committee who introduced the UAP Disclosure Act with Minority Leader Chuck Schumer in 2023, is hoping for a broad release that ensures U.S. military secrets are preserved. Rounds hopes for as much disclosure as we can get with regard to being honest to the American people about what we see that we either don't know about or what we are learning about. And I just wanted to make sure that whatever we put out, we do not impact our own national security capabilities. That means we're getting nothing. You're going to get scraps. Some people are going to be like, this is major. And maybe it's going to be mind-blowing. Who knows? But we did have some people seeing things in the skies over New York City over the weekend. It is just nonstop UFOs. It's like when they're, remember, so I'm about to be 41. I remember growing up, I only had a few channels growing up, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. So we watched the news a lot. And I remember just laughing with my dad. This is not something to laugh about, but we weren't laughing at the stores. Shark attack would happen. Shark attack, not funny. The funny part was that all of a sudden then everything's a shark attack for like a week. They were just, everyone saw sharks. Somehow everyone else is getting bit by sharks. And it's just funny how that worked out. And you can see that with everything. And then we'd laugh about, this is now healthy for you. Next week, actually not healthy. You guys know how it goes. That is just how news is. But we have this from over the weekend. This is from the New York Post. Eerie trio of UFOs spotted chasing each other over New York City. Let's see here. A trio of mysterious luminous dots was recently spotted hovering over Gotham, triggering a fresh wave of conspiracy theories and suspicions. A lot of conspiracy, the word conspiracy or the phrase conspiracy theories has really found itself in so many articles now. I came out of my house in Corona, Queens. I was born in Queens, and looked up to what I thought was a shooting star, but then two more joined it. Charlie Correa captioned, Korea as in like Chick Corea, Correa, captioned the 18-second Reddit clip. They looked to be chasing each other around before I recorded it. Visuals of the spectacle show the orbs traveling in erratic unison in a mostly triangular formation across the night sky. I have a drone, and it either emits a green or red blinking light or no lights when recording, Correa explained beneath the video, time stamping it on March 8th at 8:30 p.m. Government drones, UFOs, he said. Or maybe a few aliens just wanted to see the New York City sights. Representatives for the Federal Aviation Administration exclusively told the Post that the agency documents unidentified aerial phenomena sightings whenever a pilot reports one to an air traffic control facility. If supporting information such as radar data corroborates the report, the FAA shares it with the UAP task force. The authorities declined to comment specifically on the Reddit footage. Multiple U.S. government agencies have individual programs or processes to study and document UAP. However, the agencies also work collaboratively on the topic, continued the spokesperson. And the spokesperson always gives you the true story. The Department of War All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office serves as the centralized clearinghouse for UAP reporting impacting national security or safety. Still, social media sleuths did their best to guess the origin of those little shiny dots, wondering aloud if the oddities might have been birds, planes, or even mischievous celestial bodies. Maybe birds and luminosity is coming from exterior sources like the ground, one Redditor suggested. Others blamed it on Korea's proximity to heavy air traffic, but the Queens resident quickly quashed that notion, writing, LaGuardia Airport is probably 1 mile north from where I live, so it would be weird to not catch a FAA call or something. Rather than a flock of winged animals, wayward aircraft, or Big Apple curious aliens, one jokester wrote, nah, those are just stars playing tag. UFO sightings aren't exactly a laughing matter, it says here. A troubling 66 of the freakish misfits were spotted zipping through the heavens above New York during the first half of 2025, according to data. And as a commercial flight had a near-miss encounter with an unknown cylindrical object while traveling over the Atlantic Ocean just off the coast of the Empire State in 2024. Following the incident, the Pentagon's all-domain, that's AARO, was forced to release a statement assuring spooked Earthlings of their safety. It is important to underscore that to date, reps for the office wrote in a report, AARO has discovered no evidence of extraterrestrial beings, activity, or technology. All right, now, speaking of UFOs and speaking of New York City, I want to pull this up. It's a timeless little gem from John Lennon.
Over here, up there, I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river. It wasn't a helicopter, it wasn't a balloon, and it was so near.
And it looked what, sort of round, white, luminescent, and silent?
Silent, and it looked dark, like black or grey in the middle, and had white lights, just looked like light bulbs, you know? Just going off, on, blink, 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 round the bottom, and on top was a red light.
This is an envelope that I saved over the years, since 1974, which is a picture that John actually drew, and it's his version, it's his drawing of what this saucer looked like. So here is the white lights all around, and here was the bright red steady light on top.
And here's where the story takes a twist.
It's a typical saucer with lights all around the brim, very close encounters of the third kind. And this is, I'm just relaying to you John Lennon's drawing of a UFO he saw with like what looks like could be a blinking bigger bulb of light at the top. Is there anything left here?
It was shortly after the sighting and completion of the Walls and Bridges album that John Lennon reunited with Yoko Ono and retired from the music business and public life for 5 years.
There you go. What does he say? He's going to die shortly after, I think.
After he reemerged with a new album and a new vision, he was murdered.
They have to put the gun blast in there? Goodness gracious. Wild. Okay. All right, so I have no one in the waiting room yet. Hopefully we got somebody tomorrow. If you guys are out there listening tonight and you're just new to the show, you haven't heard what was going on last week, I'm recording these in the morning, late morning, early afternoon, and I have a Zoom link that you can use to call in. It's audio only. Tell me some stories. Tell me anything. I think that'd be lovely. Do you hear that bird? I hope you can hear that lovely bird singing. that just survived the tornado warning. The wind was crazy, and it's all but died down now. Looks like it might be a lovely day, or it'll come back when they. I've said that, now they switched the machine back on. These tornado machines are insane. I had to go over this. This had nothing to do with me getting into going down this Rome rabbit hole, even though this is Greek. But fascinating. When did this come out? This came out on the 13th. Also in the New York Post. Alexander the Great's long-lost city, Alexandria, located after nearly 2,000 years. Absolutely stunning. There's so many revelations happening right now. What does that mean? Are they true? Can we believe them? I don't know. Okay? I don't know. I do feel like we're going to get Jimmy Hoffa and Amelia Earhart any day now, and perhaps Bigfoot. I don't know what's going on, but it seems like they as in like the elite cabal of reptile, humanoid, robot, ancient evil civilization people. They're like, just give them everything. Just overload them with so much information they can't bother us right now. Let's give them Alexandria. Yeah. Let's give them the dark side of the moon next. That might be tomorrow's article. But archaeologists have confirmed the location of a long-lost city. They're going to give us Atlantis. That's what's going to happen next. We're going to get Atlantis this year. Will we believe it? I'd like to see it. That'd be sick. We're going to get Atlantis. Archaeologists have confirmed the location. Okay. A once thriving trade hub that's been hidden for centuries. I believe it was Julius Caesar that wept at the feet of the statue of Alexander the Great, just wanting to be like Alexander the Great. But the Romans certainly learned from the failures of Alexander. As great as he was, his empire fell apart pretty quickly because there was no, as far as I can tell, like unification. Once he was gone, it just fell to pieces, as far as I can tell. But again, history is fake. The ancient city known as Alexandria on the Tigris is located in southern Iraq near the Persian Gulf. It was founded in the 4th century BC as a port city linking trade from India to Mesopotamia and the Mediterranean world. It fell into obscurity after the 3rd century AD when the path of the Tigris shifted. 3rd century, man. Good times. Over the past few years, researchers have mapped the city's fortification walls, street grids, and city blocks thanks to drone imagery and high-resolution geophysical scans. Archaeologists have worked at the site since the 2010s, a time when ISIS exerted control over Iraq, but it wasn't until now that the full scale of the lost metropolis was revealed. The University of Konstanz in Germany, in a January 28th press release, said excavators were only allowed to conduct surface surveys under the close supervision of either soldiers or police officers. Kind of reminds you of what I was trying to envision there with John Trump looking at Tesla's stuff. And then the gatekeeping that goes on with this. Like, are we getting the right information? You know, how much is falsified to try to create a narrative that they want us to believe in? Just so much is fake. I just can't stress that enough. So much is fake. You know, we know our elections. So many of our elections, I think a majority of them are fake. Rome faked elections. This is human nature. It's like how I started this episode. Cyclical human nature of forgery, false history, false fake manufactured wars. Like, this is what we're getting out of the Epstein files. A lot of it was those conversations about start a war, extract wealth from the collapse of a nation, distract the people. This is what we do, people. The Rothschilds on both sides of the Napoleonic Wars and every other war probably after that, maybe even before, you know. The city had been repeatedly flooded, but it was miraculously well preserved, said Stefan R. Hauser, an archaeology professor at the University of Konstanz. Hauser told Fox News Digital that like its more famous counterpart in Egypt, Alexandria on the Tigris was founded at a crossroads between river and sea. The city was founded at a time when a new harbor for trade with India was desperately needed in southern Mesopotamia. Hauser said Alexander the Great personally chose the site in 324 BC, citing the author Pliny the Elder, who relied on older sources. It's just, again, the movement of story and narrative is so fascinating to me. I love history. I love humans. I love learning about the past, but you just have to always keep in mind who is writing it, when was it written. That's why I love the Bible so much. The Bible to me is just great journalism. So many different angles of one event. If we're talking the Gospels, right? So fast, so many different accounts from eyewitnesses. There's more for me evidence of Christ, obviously in the Bible, than there is for Genghis Khan. And like a lot of his conquests. So many of these armies are producing their own propaganda. They understand, all of them understand how important narrative is. Story is everything. Just like Claudius, right? Coming back from conquering Britain, way later. Julius Caesar went there. I think it was like around 50 BC. It was like, nah, that's crazy, but not yet. And then Claudius went, and like Claudius, like they were able to manufacture an image for Claudius, right? Who was lame. He had a limp. Like FDR, who was in a wheelchair. We created an image. We manufacture a reality. This is everything. This is so important about how we interpret the world around us, how we raise our kids. The foundations we make of truth, of trying our best to observe objective reality, is understanding that everyone is lying to you. And most people don't even realize they're lying to you, first of all, and that history is compartmentalized and manufactured. And, it's like that age-old saying of, history is written by the victors. But don't forget it. Going back to the Hannibal stuff, I love the Hannibal story. I love the idea of war elephants. I love listening about war elephants, and I got some audiobooks on war elephants. But did it happen how they say it happened? It's hard to know. We don't have like proof of these elephants. Maybe you don't need it. Maybe, the Roman historians, you take their word for it. But everyone's got a spin, right? And they also had a habit, they as in the Romans, had a habit of trying to make their enemies look more like tougher, maybe, to help their narrative as being the heroes that defeated them. And they did that quite a bit. I got to have Jeremy back on. It's been a while. He was supposed to be on in December, and everything going on with the studio and all that stuff. I was like, oh, we'll have you back, dude. Maybe next week. I have a guest coming on this Thursday, and maybe next week, because I am obviously deep down the Rome rabbit hole yet again, but I don't even know how I got here. The archaeologist said that he was surprised by the city's size at 2.5 square miles, which he called enormous for an ancient city. The size of the city blocks is extraordinary, he said. It surpasses even those of the major capitals of the time, like Seleucia or the Tigris or Alexandria on the Nile. Seleucia on the Tigris or Alexandria on the Nile. Hauser added, the quality of the geophysical evidence is absolutely stunning. The preservation of buildings is surprisingly good. And we started identifying the walls immediately beneath the surface, which also accounts for the good results in geophysical exploration. Hauser said the research began in 2016 under British archaeologists Jane Moon, Robert Killick, and Stuart Campbell, whom he credited with launching the project. There's an image here of very old columns that they're unearthing. Excavating the site was a challenge, he said, as summer temperatures rise above 120 degrees Fahrenheit. In addition, the general area suffers from air pollution. The team of researchers plans to investigate the city's quarter and its workshops and kilns in the future, pending funding. Hauser stressed that the site could shed new light on the Parthian Empire, which controlled the city centuries after Alexander's conquest. He described the empire as one of antiquity's most understudied powers. There is not a single useful summary of its history, structure, and culture, said Hauser, as I've been saying. The site is particularly well suited for this kind of research because there has been no later building activity since antiquity, he added. We have the nearly unique chance to construct an entire city plan through geophysical research and currently hope to complete geophysics this year. Well, that's fascinating. Definitely going to be staying on top of that story. Want to know what's going on there, what they find, what they say they find, all that good stuff. So, did they find it? Did they not? I don't know. It's hard to know who's telling you the truth. Why are we getting it all now? Whatever is going on, it is a fascinating time to be alive. Completely fascinating. Oh, that was me just accidentally playing the beginning of the show. I wanted to do a shout out real quick. Let's do a few. Let's go to the comments first, because that's why I had this show open. I want to address some comments here from last week's episode, which I thank you all for leaving. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. David H. Parker. Shane is holding that skull like Mike Lindell holds his My Pillow. That's incredible. Sorry for I keep switching backgrounds. There's a lot going on. Okay. So I'll be back to someplace finally. Thanks again from Luke for the comment about the soft kill, and Buster for the follow up with that. Really appreciate that. But I had something here. Oh yeah, Mark. I appreciate this comment. Great show. An idea you could ask the listeners to submit topic ideas at the end of some shows, maybe the last show in the weekend or something, giving you time to research. His request would be to get that guy on that Tim had on. He wrote a book about how the church was right, and he was on with that flat earther guy together. Not sure who that is, but I'll look into it. Anyways, both postulated the theory that Earth is at the center of the universe and talked about the ether experiment. Here's a topic to explore in this context, and maybe with him both. Maybe they and the Satanist atheist cabal use the whole UFO thing also to convince us that we are not alone and not special. Think about it. They took over from religion, and to remain in power, we must not notice we are not alone at the center of the universe. All right, well, I appreciate that. And yeah, leave me topics, and that's one right there. You know, I don't know too much about it. I don't know who you're talking about, but I'll try to look up those guests and see what they're talking about, watch that episode, and I think that's a great idea. Please do leave me ideas in the comments. I got a bunch of emails, I got DMs. You can do that as well if you don't want to leave a comment. So I'm down to hear your ideas for sure. Mark also said as a follow-up that he was like, judging by your audience, a lot of people like to have a good time watching your show. Well, thanks. They want to relax with a beer, something to smoke. Oh, I hope not. But if you do, that's fine. Topics like MKUltra assassinations, Epstein, baby murder are just too dark, and we are overloaded with them everywhere. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's part of the show, though. Maybe have them on one night only, and to try to keep it lighter. People love listening about lost civilizations, aliens. Well, hey, you got one today. Aliens, UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, metaphysical, etc., because they are topics of imagination and wonder. I get what you're saying. And you're saying maybe do 3 days of that and then 1 day of dark. I just, I will not be formulating things around, this day has to be like this and that. I take it as it comes. And if it's relevant to me and I need to cover it, then I'm going to do it. And, I also can't handle what the callers are going to be like if we get them. Don't think we're getting any today, but hopefully we get some tomorrow. But I can't. I'm not the one to make it be like this going to be this kind of show. I'm just reading constantly every day, and what's most interesting to me is what I'm going to be covering. And you just know you're never going to make everyone happy. A good example of that is people asking for callers constantly, finally getting back, and then I get messages or some comments being like, well, not these callers. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. We're doing our best, and that is all we can ask for. And I will cover the things that are interesting to me. And unfortunately, that extremely dark stuff is the stuff that I think needs to be covered. And I don't see, there's other people covering it, but I'm trying to cover it from my perspective. And it's stuff that I am compelled to show people. You look at my old stories, it's kind of like what I keep doing. I can't help it. But I am with you, and I try to not always do that. Because we all need a lighthearted episode every now and then. I think it was around Thanksgiving time. I did a whole episode on just good news. So whenever you need some good news, we can do that. And maybe I'll start doing those good news episodes more often, which is not a bad idea. So I'll be doing that. Thank you guys for these comments and the suggestions. I try to keep up with everything and just try to be honest and open with you guys on how it's going. And I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys tuning in. The other shout out I wanted to do outside of the show and comments was shout out to Silent Pendulum Records. Got sent this awesome shirt. I love it. My friend Michael Cadnar runs Silent Pendulum Records. This is not a paid advertisement, by the way. For anyone who thinks this is about to be a paid advertisement, it is not. I just love Silent Pendulum, and I'm stoked that Mike sent me the sick shirt. I couldn't wait to put it on. So I was just going to talk about music really quick. So anyone who's just not into crazy metal can tune out. But to me, this is very important, and I love music, and I just want to talk about it really quick because you sent me some CDs as well, which I still love. I have a CD player in my car. But first of all, Cadnar was a drummer in my old band. I think we did a little tour together, played a lot of shows, and I think one of the only videos that exists of my band, maybe there's a few on YouTube, maybe a few, but the one that comes up the most often that people find is from SUNY Purchase, which I just posted about over the weekend, actually, because Owen Schroyer posted he said a timeline cleanse from millennials, and it was the drinking out of cups old lizard video of the spoken word thing. That's Dan Deacon recording that, the musician. And I went to college with Dan, and somewhere there's an old Polaroid of me and Dan Deacon on my first day of school. I was a freshman, he was a senior, and he was wrapped in duct tape, and he would like jump into like just crowds of freshmen we were all confused and wandering around. And he would like jump and then have a friend take a Polaroid. I have it somewhere. And then I didn't really know Dan outside of that, but we would show up uninvited to his parties. And, but that year when I started college in 2003 at SUNY Purchase was the same year he recorded Drinking Out of Cups, which would become that video that they would make years later, like 2006, of the lizard talking, using Dan's narration, which is epic. And Dan went on to do some pretty awesome stuff. He did Francis Ford Coppola scores. There's some pretty wild people that came out of that college. It was a crazy, this is art school, you know. I went there for literature. But anyway, my band, one of our only videos that exists is from SUNY Purchase. I believe it was probably my last year there, maybe 2006 or 2007. And Cadnar's on drums there, and that's a fun one. So you can search Mabus, M-A-B-U-S, SUNY Purchase. It should come up. But Cadnar is a sick drummer, and he went on to do Silent Pendulum Records, and he actually re-released our old bands. Although he didn't play on this record, we had an older drummer at that point. Shout out to Pat. He re-released that album, Cheers to Doomsday Gloom, and put it out in vinyl and made merch, and that was sick. That was during COVID when he re-released that for us. And he's been doing that a lot, and also putting out new bands and while playing drums. So for you guys out there who are into, like, I remember someone commented Found Dead Hanging and stuff like that, and I talk about From a Second Story Window. If you're into that kind of stuff, if you know bands like The Number 12 Looks Like You, Cadnar played drums for them for a while. And he sent me this, which is OG, Number 12 Looks Like You. So I don't mind me. I'm just going to nerd out for a minute. But we used to open for this band all the time. And this is before Cadnar was in our band. And we would play, we would open for them and the Sawtooth Grin at a place called Olives in Nyack, New York. Now, we were a New York band from like the Orange County area. And most of these guys were like Jersey-ish or like Rockland, New York. That's New York, right? Yeah. And we would just kind of meet all the time to do shows at Olives. Olives was featured very recently in one of the newer Coheed and Cambria videos, because Coheed was also from that area. We never played with Coheed, but they used to be called Shabooti, and they were like one of the bigger bands from that area, and they blew up. But we recorded our first EP at the same place that Shabooti and I think early Coheed recorded at. And then our second EP we did was at the same studio, which was recorded by Jace, who was one of the singers from Number 12 Looks Like You. And I love this record. So I'm so stoked to have this CD. Let's see what else. Dude, Cadnar's the man. He sent me the Dr. Acula. You guys might know that band. Oh, goodness gracious. What else do I have here? Dude, the new Glass Casket EP. For those of you nerds out there who love metal might know that, I think it's Robert is his name, or Dusty. Maybe it's Robert Dusty. but he was in Between the Buried and Me. Glass Casket was a really sick band, and then Between the Buried and Me, another sick band. Absorbed a few of those guitar players, and that's the newer EP. There's another Number 12 Looks Like You, Nuclear Sad Nuclear. Dude, crazy memories of playing with those bands. It was like, those were like, to me, the biggest bands in the world. You know, even though we were playing in little dive bars around New York and New Jersey and Connecticut, that, you know, we'd be lucky if 50 people were there sometimes. But typically in those early days, we were the only audience. So it's like we would play just for Sawtooth and Number 12, and then, you know, they play for us. And then, you know, obviously those guys blew up and did great tours, and Sawtooth and Number 12 ended up doing tours at like Into the Moat and From a Second Story Window, I think, and Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza. But shout out to So Hideous. That's Cadnar and DJ Scully. DJ Scully's a great bass player, and also became the bass player in the Sawtooth Grin for their last few records, which are great. And then I got this Soulshade stuff, which is something new that Cadnar put out. Soulshade, Solshade. I love that band. They are incredible. So Cadnar's not just re-releasing stuff, he's putting out bands, and I just support that, man. That's amazing. And shout out to Silent Pendulum Records. I am grateful to have this shirt, and I'm going to rock it proudly. I love music. I love metal. It is my first love with music, and it's cool to see my friends killing it and doing awesome stuff. Cadnar plays drums in a ton of different projects, and if you ever get a chance to look him up on Instagram, watch his videos of playing drums. There's really, you know, he's incredible. It's awesome. So check that out. Thanks again, Cadnar. And thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate it. Remember, tomorrow we're going to try to get some callers in here. I know it's weird with the new schedule. I'm pre-recording at 11 in the morning Eastern time. I'll be hanging out, and you can call in. We can talk about anything you want. We got, you know, tomorrow we might get into some Antarctica news. Might get into this Pokemon stuff with the surveillance state, and who knows what else is going to happen. Maybe we'll have Atlantis by tomorrow. Anything's possible, right? But thank you guys for liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing it. Please do. That really does help the show. It's incredible to see everybody here tuning in and leaving comments and giving your suggestions. I love it. Thank you very much. Have a blessed night, and I'll see you tomorrow.